Hey guys, welcome to another edition of 4chan TV Hot Takes, where I look at some hot takes on the film and television board on 4chan and give my opinion on it. Why hasn't he been fired yet? And it's a picture of Ezra Miller. Ezra Miller is a bit of a scumbag, and that's an understatement. You see, while everyone was talking about the Will Smith, Chris Rock scandal, another little scandal kind of slid between the cracks, you know? So this Ezra Miller guy a few months ago was caught strangling a woman. No, I am not making this up. And now he just got charged with breaking into someone's house, calling the man's wife a slut, stealing their wallets, and threatening to bury them. Where did this guy come from? I'm guessing he's probably just the son of some famous producer or like some relative, and they just decided to shove him in movies. Or them. I should use the proper pronoun, I guess. It's weird being very considerate for a person who's not considerate at all. This guy is just a really strange dude. He goes around wearing a dog collar. I don't know if he's a dog or something. Which is kind of ironic. I remember they were doing promotional material for the Flash movie, and he wore a dog collar, and a brilliant YouTube commenter said he went from choking women to choking himself. Comment of the decade, I think. But anyway, this guy, I don't even think he's that good an actor, to be honest. As far as the Flash goes, his Flash is okay. His Flash is supposed to be very similar to Tom Holland's Spider-Man, just like an average teenager who becomes a superhero. And as far as that goes, I think Tom Holland is miles more charismatic than Ezra Miller. I remember people were drooling all over his performance and the perks to being a wallflower. I wasn't really that interested in his performance. It was a breakthrough performance nonetheless. And he's also in those Harry Potter movies, which he's not even that interesting a character in that. It's weird to consider that Johnny Depp got fired from those wizard movies, but they still kept Ezra Miller in them. It's a strange call, and for him to get away with as much as he did, and Johnny Depp just whatever he did, which he was the victim of an abusive relationship. It's just weird how people are calling the shots. It's a problem I have with cancel culture. If you're thinking, oh, this guy's behavior does not align with our companies, I understand that, but you gotta have some, like what Roseanne Barr did is nowhere near as bad as what Ezra Miller did. What Gina Carano did is nowhere as bad. Even what Will Smith did. Will Smith, he's kind of getting canceled. I just found out that they canceled the Bad Boys 4, which I didn't even know they were making a Bad Boys 4. But it's nowhere near what this Ezra kid did. I can't even look at him in the face. Like, I'm just like, ugh. And it's one thing when a director kind of does something awful, or a producer like Harvey Weinstein or Roman Polanski. I can kind of put that in the back of my mind because they're behind the camera. I don't have to look at their face. But Ezra Miller, it's like I can't stomach that guy, really. I'm wondering why he's not behind bars, but yeah, I'm also wondering why he's still in movies. And I really don't like Warner Bros.' approach of just sweeping everything under the rug and saying, we do not stand with the things that Ezra Miller did. It's like, it's above that. What he's doing is like disgusting. It's pathetic. It's criminal. I can't even find the words for it. Let's see what the good people at 4chan are saying. Is he based or is he cringe? Definitely cringe. I don't know how someone sees this and thinks based. No one is thinking based about this guy. Privilege, same reason why Will Smith can assault somebody and still win an award. They preach all this woke bullshit, and it turns out that the bunch of them are bunch of degenerate sickos. I can agree with that sentiment, and it's why I think Hollywood is kind of declining. It's like Jim Carrey said. I don't understand how they can be like, oh, Gina Carano does not align with our values, or they did the same thing with whoever plays the sister in Black Panther. They gave her a hard time. It's like they're very selective about who they defend. I don't know what it is. It's probably like some links into the industry. Probably the same way Ezra Miller got his break into the Hollywood industry is through good connections, and those good connections are still gripping onto him. This dude is acting out of the Funny Games movies in real life, and it's amazing to watch the mental gymnastics of normies and woke people. Like, dude is off the rails, like Mel Gibson tier, and all they want to do is bury it and keep his career chugging along. Pretty big red pill to leave lying around. Obviously, if you're on 4chan and you're going on a thread like this one, you're gonna find a lot of homophobic remarks and whatnot. I don't think what he did was because he was gay, and I don't think it reflects the gay community as a whole. But it's a little hypocritical how he views himself as a spokesperson for that community, and he can't even hold himself to the standards of a human being. It sets the gay community back when people do that kind of thing, unfortunately. The Last Jedi, this guy is definitely LARPing. The Last Jedi is one of the best Star Wars films. No, not even close. I mean, it depends like what your margin is. Like if you're saying top 10 Star Wars movie, maybe, but there's not that many Star Wars movies. As far as the original trilogy, all of them trump it. As far as the prequel trilogy, I'd say definitely episode 3 is better than The Last Jedi. I'd say episode 1, 2 is probably better than The Last Jedi as well. Maybe not Attack of the Clones, that one's a bit of a dumpster fire. Then as far as the sequel trilogy, I guess it's the best of the 3. I still haven't seen Rise of Skywalker. I think Rogue One is better than The Last Jedi. By a margin, but yeah, and maybe Solo is a little better than The Last Jedi. It's really bad when the spin-off movies are more interesting than the Skywalker saga movies. Yeah, I think the main problem I have with The Last Jedi is that everyone praises it for subverting expectations. It's good to subvert expectations, but it's bad to have a bad story. If I'm watching a sequel to Pulp Fiction, and the whole movie is John Travolta taking a shit in someone's shoes, did that subvert my expectations? Of course. Does it make it necessarily good? No. The Last Jedi reminds me of a good joke by Mitch Hedberg, where he says, "My girlfriend told me to be more spontaneous, so I decided to take a shit in her shoes." Just being subversion of expectations for the sake of subverting expectations doesn't necessarily make it good. There's a lot of stuff to like in The Last Jedi, actually. I do like the fact that Luke is more of a recluse in this movie. He's more of a broken individual. I kind of wish they explained that and kind of explored that further. I liked Rey in The Last Jedi, and I liked Kylo Ren in The Last Jedi. The stuff I didn't like was that whole opening battle, which was goofy as fuck, where you had Oscar Isaac saying mom jokes, which doesn't fit with Star Wars. They tried to throw in jokes a la Marvel, and it doesn't fit in Star Wars. Star Wars, the comedy comes from the characters themselves, not from quippy one-liners like they're Tony Stark or something. And that whole subplot with Finn and Rose and whatever was going on there on the casino planet, it was a train wreck. It didn't make sense. It wasn't a coherent movie. I went into the movie completely sober and felt like I was drunk because the editing was so choppy and it was all over the place. Benicio del Toro, who's a great actor, shows up in the movie and doesn't really do anything memorable. The whole movie was just, And then that fight in the throne room was just weird. And they offed the big bad in like 2 seconds. This guy who's set up to be the big bad, Rey kind of kills him very easily. So I kind of wish the movie was good. I'm happy the movie decided to go in a different direction, but that's not enough. You have to still make a coherent movie. And one of the twists that Rian Johnson actually did that I liked is I liked the fact that Rey's parents were nobodies. I liked the fact that they were setting that up, because one of the problems I had with all of the Star Wars movies actually is that everyone had to be related. It started off where Luke was actually the son of Darth Vader, okay? Then you find out Leia and Luke are brother and sister. okay. Then you find out that there's all these intricate connections, and I was happy for once Rey was just a random NPC. I thought that was interesting. Just everything else about the movie is like, it's a misfire in my opinion. There's some really high highs and some very low lows, which makes The Last Jedi very interesting to talk about in my opinion, because the stuff that's good is definitely good, but the stuff that's not good, it sticks out like a sore thumb. It's the only Star Wars movie that matters, to be quite honest. It doesn't matter. I don't view the sequel trilogy as canon in my brain, to be honest, so it doesn't really matter to me. Like, I viewed it as Disney making Star Wars fan films. I don't view it as George... To me, Star Wars, for it to be canon, it has to be part of George Lucas's vision. And this was obviously not part of his vision. So I can't call episode 7, 8, and 9 canon. So for this statement to be true, I don't agree with it. Pros, Rilo scenes, that I agree. The Rilo scenes were good. Or Raylo, or however you say that. And the cons is everything else. Yeah, everything that was going on with Rey's training and Kylo Ren, I thought was interesting. I liked Kylo Ren. I like the fact that this is a problem actually people have with the sequel trilogy. But people are always complaining that, oh, Kylo Ren's like a pussy-ass bitch. But I think that's interesting, because he's kind of just some freaking loser trying to be a Sith. So it kind of works out. He's just like some angsty teen. I thought he's the most interesting thing. For that reason. The reason why people don't like him. Alright, name a flaw. Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. I think Once Upon a Time in Hollywood is a great movie. It was one of my favorite movies from that year, and it's what I always wanted Tarantino to do more of. One of Tarantino's most underrated movies is Jackie Brown, and I'm not just saying that because I have a huge crush on Pam Grier. I think Once Upon a Time in Hollywood is a much more personal Tarantino film, and I enjoy it for that. It's about an aging star, it's about Hollywood, it's about the transitional phase from the 60s into the 70s. It's a really personal movie, and I like all the characters in this. I like Brad Pitt's character, he's super charismatic. I like DiCaprio's character, I like Al Pacino's character, I like all the characters, Kurt Russell. It's a very fun movie. It's a laid-back movie where you can just kick off your shoes after a day of work and just hang out with the buds. That's what the movie feels like. It's a lot like Jackie Brown. That scene where Brad Pitt and Leonardo DiCaprio are watching Bounty Law on TV was very similar to me to that scene in Jackie Brown where Robert De Niro and Sam Jackson are watching the Gun TV show. Yeah, just some cool hangout moments. The problem that comes to me is the ending kind of feels way too Tarantino. Everyone loved the ending where the Manson family gets their due and gets fucked up and gets killed and all that stuff, and I liked it to a certain extent, but it was just told very Tarantino-y. To me, there's like the Jackie Brown, Pulp Fiction, Reservoir Dogs Tarantino movies, and then there's the Kill Bill, Inglourious Bastards, and Django Unchained Tarantino movies. They kind of feel like movies that the characters in Pulp Fiction would watch, which I applaud the movies for what they are. I enjoy it. It just felt like such a tonal shift for it to happen in the final act of the movie. Kind of feels unsatisfying to me. I wish the ending was more along the lines of the ranch scene where Brad Pitt goes on the ranch and kind of has a scuffle with someone, where it kind of felt more brutal and realistic. I wish that was the ending of the movie, something along those lines, where it can still be grounded in reality, but instead you get this very Tarantino-y, flashy, woman getting smashed in the face ending. Let's see what other people are saying. The retarded theater scene. A lot of people don't like that scene where Sharon Tate goes into the theater and just kicks her shoes off and watches a movie, and it kind of shows. It made me feel more attached to Sharon Tate as a character, just to see her daily life. And that's what I mean. The movie is more of a hangout movie. It's kind of like you're just following these characters. The plot isn't very dramatic, at least up until that ending like I was talking about. I didn't mind that theater scene. It felt cool, it felt laid back. Tarantino's retarded Gib happy end historical revisionism, yeah, that's the same problem I had. The theater scene and the happy ending, I didn't mind the fact that it was a happy ending, to be honest, and that was like a revision a revisionist ending. It was just the way it was done, how it was very exploitation and blood and guts flying everywhere and someone getting lit on fire. It kind of didn't feel like the same movie. I can't really. It flawlessly executed what it set out to do. It may not be the type of movie everyone enjoys, but I find it to be near perfect. While I agree with that sentiment, I think Tarantino definitely made the movie he wanted to make. And I think any shortcomings I have with the movie, Tarantino knew that going in. He knew that that kind of ending would kind of put some people off. But Tarantino's a genius. He's a madman. He's a creator. He does whatever the fuck he wants. Tarantino's narration, where he names all his favorite directors that his fictional characters got to work with. It's fanboy cringe. No better than Wattpad. Yeah, I kind of agree with that as well. There were some moments, especially there's a moment where there was like Mama Cass at a pool party, and there was, who else was there? Steve McQueen, I think, was there. And it kind of felt like, I remember there was reports of like, who played Steve McQueen in the movie? I can't remember who's the actor that played him, but they're like, oh, this actor is gonna play Steve McQueen, and it's just like he kind of pulled like a Marvel, how they just do references to prior stuff just for the sake of saying references. That I can get behind. It wasn't as in your face. I think like your average normie viewer would watch it and it would fly over their head, but it was a little distracting to me. Those feet get me every time, bros. A lot of feet in this movie. A lot of feet. If you're a foot fetishist, so is Tarantino. You're gonna enjoy a lot of feet. This man saying not enough foot shots. Jeez. It's like a drug. You can't get enough of it. The ending is too over the top, even for Tarantino. Fucknuts just couldn't contain himself. I think that's why I like the book better. It's just a story, no retarded ending. Yeah, I've yet to read the book. I know Jackie was gonna read it. I know he had his hands on it, but I don't know if he got around to it. Maybe if Jackie's editing this, he can throw his review up on the screen. Based/Kino movie villains. I think one of my all-time favorite villains, just off the top of my head, is Rutger Hauer in Blade Runner. I think that's definitely one of the best movie villains ever, because he's menacing, he's strong, he's powerful, but his story is what makes him very complex. He's slowly becoming more human, and no one recognizes him as human, despite him having the consciousness of a near human. And then at the end of the movie, he decides to save Harrison Ford, which shows that this character, despite being an android, has a lot of compassion, and he ends in a very tragic death. And the first time I watched Blade Runner, I remember getting really emotional at his character's death, kind of talking about all of the things he remembered and how they're all going to disappear. And I started to feel very emotional. And then you have that dove that flies away, and that dove is supposed to be an android as well. And it kind of makes you see the humanity in those androids, and it kind of makes you feel sorry for them, which is what the movie explores. The movie explores that kind of slim line between human and technology. I think that villain is probably one of the best villains in history. Now, as far as based in the terms of contrary opinions that I kind of agree with, Magneto was right all along. Prove me wrong, guys. Magneto basically thinks that mutants are the next stage in human evolution, and they're gonna conquer, so might as well do it right now. I can agree with that sentiment. I can agree with it. You know, humans, they're not as good as mutants. Get rid of them. They're slowing us down. Someone put a picture of the villain in Avatar, literally struggles to understand how he was in the wrong. I wouldn't call him a Kino villain. He was kind of one of the flaws in the movie with me. Someone has Anton from No Country for Old Men. Anton is way more believable and based than any of those milked 1980s slashers. Yeah, and like a lot of people complain about his Dora the Explorer hairdo. I like that. It's just like some crazy dude with some weird haircut. He was fucking terrifying in that movie, especially that scene where he's strangling someone with his handcuffs. I love that movie. Someone has Michael Douglas from Falling Down. I'm the bad guy. Yeah, I love Falling Down, needless to say. Someone put Patrick Bateman from American Psycho. He's not really a villain in my opinion, is he? David Bowie as the Goblin King managed to give a great performance that was elegant yet intimidating. It helps that his costume and makeup were on point. I would agree. David Bowie is a dank villain. Why are they so bad to him? And the picture is Aaron McGee from Jackass. I feel like they were really bad to him when Bam was around. I thought Bam was really mean with him to the point where I didn't even find it funny when I would watch the Jackass movies. Jackass? What did I say like that? Jackass? That's why I kind of liked the fact that Bam wasn't returning in this movie, because he kind of brought a more bully atmosphere to the films. I don't know what's going on behind the scenes, I can't say, but just from an outsider looking in, I thought Bam was really mean to people around him, especially his parents. A lot of people liked the jokes involving his parents, and some were funny, like the gorilla one smashing up the apartment was funny, and the crocodile one was funny, but some is just Bam going to his dad and hitting him repeatedly across the head while he's asleep. I didn't think those were funny. I just think Bam was a giant bully sometimes, and yeah, it wasn't really funny to me. But Aaron McGee definitely steals the show in Jackass Forever. He carries it. The fucking stunt with the bear, the stunt with the fucking balls exploding, he exploded his own testicle. He carried the show in that Jackass movie. So, I mean, he went through the ringer, but I think he carried the show. He looks like somebody fun to bully. I bet he rimmed Bam. Don't have to be a woman to be an Earth rimmer. Yeah, this guy's a pretty big Bam stan. I think too, part of it is that different characters or performers in Jackass kind of react differently. I feel like Johnny Knoxville is a bit of a puppet master, and he's kind of going to different cast members and doing whatever makes them get the best reaction for the camera. And when Aaron is freaking out, that shit's hilarious. He just has a funny way of reacting. No, I'm not fucking doing this. No. And yeah, I think that's why there's some sense of bullying going on. I feel like it's ultimately for a better show. It's the same way how Kenny bullies Spenny for Kenny versus Spenny. It's just that's what makes for good entertainment. But I can understand how it can go too far at times. I watched a Johnny Knoxville interview recently, and he said that twice Chris Pontius has taken a switchblade out and threatened Aaron after getting annoyed by him. They had to stop production and get the knife from Pontius. Pontius is either a psycho in real life, or Erhen is more of a douche than we think. I'm not gonna even step my toe. You heard it from here, boys, but I'm not stepping my toe in that one. Alright, a picture of Tarantino. Back to Tarantino here. A picture of Tarantino in Pulp Fiction. Why was Jules friends with him? Good question. You know, he kind of comes across like a slimy kind of person, this Tarantino character. What was his name in the movie? I can't even remember. But he kind of says the N-word repeatedly with a hard R, mind you, kind of different. Why would you be friends with this guy? It's kind of just the way gangsters talk, I guess. You look back at the movie Casino, how Joe Pesci repeatedly calls Robert De Niro a Jew and constantly makes fun of his Jewish heritage. You listen here, you Jew motherfucker, you! So, yeah, it could be that, just the way gangsters talk. They try to go for the low blows, so I think it's more of that. It's just Tarantino's delivery is a little off. Just a little off. He made exceptionally good coffee. Yeah, it could be that. Probably drugs from the past, maybe even as far back as high school. Could be that. Maybe they just grew up together and they were both in crime. They just tagged along one another, you know? Jules is an old school gangster. He's using the man's garage to store a corpse. I think a little N-word talk is in order. I mean, yeah. I mean, he's kind of bringing a dead person to his garage. Why is everyone so... You know, people criticize Pulp Fiction. It's why was the N-word necessary in that scene? It's I mean, can we just take a moment to realize that Jules has a dead person in his car. I think N-word versus dead person in your car, yeah, I can see that. I would never use the N-word, but I'm talking about equivalencies here. Author wish fulfillment. Tarantula wishes he could be cool enough to say the N-word around black people. Yeah, a bit of that. I think that's one of the criticisms Spike Lee had with Django Unchained. And, do I think it's that? I think a bit to a certain extent. I don't think Django Unchained is bad, because it's the antebellum South during slave era. They're gonna use the N-word repeatedly. But as far as the Pulp Fiction goes, I think that's the only moment where Tarantino used the N-word. It's a little cringe. I think Pulp Fiction is a great movie, but I could have done without that N-word. And it's not like the use of the N-word itself. Like if Harvey Keitel's character was delivering the N-word, I'd be like, okay, sure. But it's the fact that Tarantino is saying it, and Tarantino is not the strongest actor out there. And when he says it with just a lot of punch, a little too much punch on the N-word. And he really holds on to the R at the end of that word too. I've said it around black people a couple times on accident, and no one said shit. Watched a wigger say it every other word, and no one gave a shit. It depends on who you're around, I guess. Yeah, exactly. Some people are more sensitive to it than others, and I'm not saying that it's necessarily bad if you're sensitive to the word. Alright, we got a picture of the cast of the female Ghostbusters. Will they ever admit they fucked up with this shit? Or will they just keep saying fragile white male rage? I think that movie is going to be taught in textbooks of how not to market a movie. And the reason why people call it female Ghostbusters is because there's nothing else to the movie. It's Ghostbusters, but with women. Even having the street smart character be a black person. Everything is like a remake. Like they couldn't even make the black character like the Egon Spangler equivalent. Like they even had to carry over the races. They had to carry over Slimer. They had to have the ending be a gigantic monster that's white and chubby that's taking over the city. It was just a remake of the original one, so it's a bad movie. It's just a bad movie. Now, will they ever admit that it's a bad movie? No, because they're caught in their own bubble and they don't understand anything. They're just stuck in their own bubble. I think all of these women are talented. I think Leslie Jones especially is probably the most talented of the four here. I really like Leslie Jones as a performer. It's just, after a while, you got to admit this was a misfire. It was a misfire. You know what? Ghostbusters Afterlife has a female lead. No one calls that one the female Ghostbusters. They just call it Ghostbusters. I haven't seen Ghostbusters Afterlife, but it does have better critical reception than the all-female Ghostbusters, at least from the fans. Probably not the critics, but the fans liked it more, so. And I don't like the fact that they're blaming the fans of the franchises, the ones that kind of gave them the... You know, fans are what made Ghostbusters what it is. And for you to be a part of the Ghostbusters legacy is in part due to the fans. So you shouldn't really be insulting the fans when you make something. You should have some respect to the audience. Let's say I have this hot sauce. This is not my hot sauce. This is from Billy Mitchell. But let's say I've created a hot sauce and I started a GoFundMe and I made this hot sauce and the hot sauce blew up and I become a millionaire just from people loving this fucking hot sauce. All right? Now, let's say that I decide to retire. I'm getting old. And I decide that my daughter is going to take over my hot sauce company. The last thing I would want my daughter to do is insult the consumers of my hot sauce, because they're the fucking ones that made me a millionaire. Is it not like... I don't know, it feels like an easy concept to grasp, but apparently not. And then Leslie Jones especially gets vocal, saying that Sony was in the wrong to kind of redo the franchise and make Ghostbusters Afterlife, saying all kinds of crazy claims. I'm like, you were given your shot, They didn't like the direction it went with. Move on. I can understand if you're like the original crew. If you're Bill Murray and you see Sony mishandling your thing. Yeah, I can kind of understand that. You created it. It's somewhat your baby. And Sony is handling it in a way you don't approve. I get it. But Leslie Jones has nothing to do with Ghostbusters. She was hired for a role. She did her part. She did it well, arguably. She was probably the best of the 4 cast members in that movie. But move on. It's not your franchise. You're not entitled to anything. You're a hired person. It would be as if the fucking boom operator started saying that Ghostbusters belonged to them. And if the boom operator wasn't hired for Ghostbusters Afterlife, they were owed. You weren't owed anything. An actor is the same as a boom operator to me. I don't know. It's just such a weird situation. Sorry for the rant there, folks. Why do either when you can pretend like it never happened? Yeah, exactly. Just like move on. It was a misfire. It's fine. Everyone has duds in their career, but you're not entitled to Ghostbusters. Playing devil's advocate, at least this movie understood what a Ghostbusters was supposed to be about, even if it failed at it, unlike the new one. No, I don't think they understood what the Ghostbusters was supposed to be. The appeal of Ghostbusters is that it's a bunch of blue-collar workers, but instead of, like, unclogging a toilet, they're catching ghosts. That's the appeal of Ghostbusters. It doesn't have any of the dry wit that you would get in an office environment or in a blue-collar environment. That movie did not understand Ghostbusters. I haven't seen Ghostbusters Afterlife, I can't speak for it, but as far as Ghostbusters 2016 understanding Ghostbusters, I don't think they understood Ghostbusters. They understood the plot points of Ghostbusters. They understood that this should happen at page 30 and this should happen at page 70 and this, but I don't think they understood Ghostbusters. Why would they? Movie studios rarely admit their mistakes because it doesn't bring them money. You don't have to admit your mistakes, but at least ignore it. Just stop saying, Sony, you owe me this, you owe me... I'm mostly talking about Leslie Jones because she was the one that was the most vocal about it, but the whole cast and the director started blaming the fans for its shortcomings. It's not the fans' fault. Like, there's some franchises out there where the fans are still strong. Mission Impossible, those movies are getting increasingly popular. You made a movie, it's stoinked, move on. Like, stop blaming the fans. It's crazy. If a sequel or a reboot or a soft reboot underperforms, it's because of toxic fandom. But when a franchise like Mission Impossible comes around, or the Marvel movies, all of a sudden the fandom isn't toxic. Give a good product, and people will enjoy the good product. Give a bad product, and you will scare away a couple of people. And those people, they work hard for their money. A movie ticket is not cheap these days. A movie ticket is very expensive. And especially a movie like Ghostbusters, where that's a family movie, a family is expected to pay over $30, $40 for a movie experience to go see that movie. And they're allowed to get vocal on the internet if they've been dissatisfied with the product. It's the way the world works. Are there some people out there who hated the female Ghostbusters because it was female? Yeah. Am I one of them? I thought it was gimmicky, but I don't think it was the reason for its shortcomings. Alright, this one is interesting. What is your mom's favorite movie? And a picture of a MILF. My mom's favorite movies are Braveheart. She loves Braveheart. A Beautiful Mind. And Signs. My mom really has a thing for Mel Gibson. I don't think she knows about the scandalous things he's done, but I'm not gonna burst the bubble here. Let's see what other people are saying is their mom's favorite movie. Another picture of a MILF. Amadeus. I haven't seen it. Amadeus is a fantastic movie. It's a gold standard on how you do a musical biopic. Seriously, it's a great movie. Amadeus is probably the greatest musical biopic ever made. And it's rare that I agree with the Best Picture winners, but that movie won Best Picture, and it's fantastic. It really showed Amadeus as kind of a rock star. He's like out there goofing around with big titty women. He's farting. He's like this like low class kind of guy. People scoff at him. I really like the movie Amadeus. It's a great movie. I think it's my brother's favorite movie. He's not a mom, though. At least I don't think he is. The story of Tremors is probably in her top 3. Tremors is a bit of a mom movie, but I love Tremors. It's such a fun time. Giant sandworms? Come on. Another movie my mom likes is... what's that movie where they cook the rabbit? Fatal Attraction. There we go. Had a blank on it. Probably Stardust or early Marvel or some shit like that. Damn. She must be a young mom. Maybe a MILF. My grandma introduced me to some comfy VHS kino, like the Dollars trilogy, Christopher Reeve's Superman, and her favorite movie is Forrest Gump. Forrest Gump is a bit of a mom movie. It is. Christopher Reeve's Superman as well is a bit of a mom movie. Because Christopher Reeves captured the hearts of a generation. I remember reading that Christopher Reeves would be super particular about his public persona, not to have news of him drinking or smoking or doing drugs or anything like that, and just really kept a clean profile, just because he knew the responsibility that came with being Superman. And I think that's why families especially like that movie, because he took it very seriously. Where can I seduce MILFs or GILFs in public? I'm 22, and I seriously want older BBW to fuck. Well, sir, first thing you can do is get a kid, and then you can go to the grade school and see which of the mommies there are divorced, and that's how your best bet is. If not, I recommend Tinder, making your radius as wide as possible, and putting it into the 35 to, if you're saying GILF, 35 to 99 range, whatever floats your boat. And just be yourself, and yeah. Alright, last one. This is considered a beautiful actress in 2022. I'll explain to you, because I'm one of those who finds Zendaya pretty attractive. The reason why she's very beautiful is because she looks like a normal person. She has a very natural face. Putting aside commercials, she doesn't look like she's overdone with makeup. Her eyebrows aren't super perfectly thread. Her hair is not super flat. She looks like someone who is real. That's part of the appeal of Zendaya. That's why people like her in the Spider-Man movies, because she looks like a real person. Granted, she looks a little old to be a teenager in a high school, but she looks like a real person. That's why people dig Zendaya. Now, I'm getting a little bit of Zendaya fatigue. I always get Squarespace commercials on YouTube. I always see her in Euphoria commercials. I always see her in Spider-Man. She's in every movie, it feels. She's in Dune. I'm getting a little fatigued, but that's kind of what Hollywood does when someone is hot. They try to plug them in as much shit as possible before the hype train wears down. That's what happened to Jennifer Lawrence. Yeah, I think she's talented enough. And I think she's an attractive woman. Shoot me. I thought this was a still of Brendan Fraser and George of the Jungle. Jeez! 80s and 90s women mog women now so hard. I would agree with that sentiment. I think, it's just people don't look real anymore. There's so much, just in daily life. Filters on Snapchat and Instagram. Makeup, plastic surgery, facelifts, all kind of hickory-doos. I think women are beautiful in all shapes and sizes at all ages. So, yeah. I think 80s and 90s women are more attractive. If you were to do a sample size of all women in films and put them side by side with women in films nowadays, yeah, I think I can get behind that. They look less Michael Jackson-y. Someone put a picture of Zendaya at the Oscars. Yeah, that's a good look. You can't look at that and say that's not attractive. Alright, this thread is getting a little sexual. I'm gonna call it there. Guys, thanks for tuning in. If you like this, comment below. Let me know that you enjoyed this, and I'll see you guys around.